Did you hear that Deborah sang about me? Really, she did. Deborah, the great judge of Israel, sang about me and how I killed General Sisera. But I guess I'm getting a little ahead of myself. My name is Jael, and this is my story. For 20 years, the Israelite people had been oppressed by the king of Canaan, and now they were at war to gain their freedom. Deborah, the judge and prophet who people traveled from far and wide to see, summoned a man named Barak to her. When he arrived, she told him that God had chosen this time to free their people, that he should gather troops from the surrounding tribes, and that God would be with them as they fought against the Canaanite army and General Sisera. Now, Deborah conveniently forgot to mention at the beginning that it was not, in fact, Barak who would kill General Sisera. But to his credit, when she told him that it would be at the hands of a woman that Israel was delivered, Barak did not protest and simply went about gathering his men. He probably assumed that it was Deborah herself who would do so because he had asked her to come and join him on the battlefield. How could he have ever imagined that it would be me? At this point, I didn't even know it would be me. But God knew. And God uses the most unexpected and surprising ways to accomplish God's goals. Now, you're probably wondering how I fit into the story other than killing Sisera, of course. I seem to have spilled the beans on that a little. As I said, my name is Jael, and I'm the wife of Heber the Kenite. We Kenites are a nomadic people, and our men are known for their metalworks, which is how we found ourselves camped not far from the battlefield where Barak and Sisera would soon be at war. My husband had made peace with the king of Canaan and had come to an agreement that our tribe would make and repair their weapons in whatever conflict they found themselves. It was good work, and it kept us fed, but sometimes my conscience made me wonder if we were right in choosing sides, in arming one over the other. But that was not for me to say. And so in each new place, I pitched our tents and made a home. But this time was different. This conflict, we knew and had a history with both sides. What you need to know is that the Kenites, the Canaanites, and the Israelites had all lived in this region for hundreds of years, thousands if you listen to the stories of the old folks. And for the most part, we had done so peacefully. But every once in a while, one king or another decided that he wanted to control more territory and started oppressing one or more of the other tribes. In this case, Israel had been at the mercy of Canaan for many years, and so I understood why they wanted their freedom. But I also knew that we had made a treaty of peace with the Canaanites, and we could not go back on that. So I tried to keep my distance, settling my heart by staying away from the fighting as far as I could, both physically and emotionally. That day was a particularly bloody one. The young men who had gone out to watch the fighting from a distance, of course, had just come running back into camp, telling us that every single one of Sisera's men had been killed. At first, I didn't really give it all that much thought. It didn't make much of a difference in my daily living, unless it meant that the war was over and I would have to pack up our tents again. But then I felt something drawing me outside. It was as if there was an invisible string around my waist, pulling me out of my tent and to the edge of camp where I could just see the edge of the blood-filled battlefield and one lone figure. It was Sisera, running on foot as if the devil was chasing him. In that moment, I heard a voice in my head say, "It's up to you, Jael." What's up to me? I thought. And again the voice spoke, "It's up to you, Jael. You will deliver my people." And then I knew. The voice in my head was the voice of my God. The Kenites and the Israelites may use different names, but we believed that we worship the same God. It was this one who spoke to me now. It was this one who declared that I would deliver the people. But how? How was I supposed to do this? And again, the answer came deep in my soul. I knew that the only thing I could do was kill General Sisera. But how? I am a woman, not a warrior. I had no place on the battlefield, even if I had wanted to, and trust me, I did not want to. But with Sisera coming closer with each heartbeat, I knew I had to do something, and so I hastily conceived of a plan. As Sisera drew near to the edge of camp, his footsteps started to slow. He knew that he was in a safer place, although he was not yet sure if he could totally rest. I had served him many times in the tent of my husband while they discussed the needs of the army, and so my face was familiar to him, if it was a bit unexpected. With a cheerful smile, I raised my voice and turned to him, inviting him into my tent. He hesitated for just a brief moment, perhaps wondering if it was truly safe. Perhaps wondering what people would say if he went into the tent of a married woman. I do not know what went through his mind, but it was only for a moment before he slowed even further and allowed me to lead the way through the camp. He knew the law of hospitality as well as I. Guests were almost sacred in our culture. He would be safe, he believed, because no one would dare to attack him in my tent for fear of the retribution of my entire tribe. And yet I was about to do just that. With a sweep of my hand, I bid him welcome to my home, and when he asked for a cup of cool water, I gave him some milk and a blanket and encouraged him to rest. As he drifted off to sleep, as I knew he would, he asked me to stand at the door, and if anyone asked as to his whereabouts, to say that he was not within. I did go to the door, but I didn't stay there. When I heard the deep breaths of a man deep in slumber, I crept back into my tent. Over in the corner was my satchel with my extra tent pegs and my hammer, and I stole to them. As I took them out of their hiding place, I felt their weight in my hands. So well made, these tools, thanks to my husband. Tools not of war, but the tools of my own skill. The tools that I had at hand that would help me to deliver God's people. I felt their weight, and I looked at the sleeping man beside me and wondered about what I was about to do. And then he stirred, and I knew that if I did not act now, I would not have the opportunity. So gently I placed the peg at his temple, raised my hammer, and with a sure and swift strike, it went in. It was done. Sisera was dead, laying at my feet in a pool of blood. Since that day, the stories have seemed to multiply. Some have tried to justify what I did, saying that I feared for my safety and for my honor, and so what I did was in self-defense. Others have called me a traitor to my people. Some have questioned my intentions because I invited him into my tent, and others dislike my deceit and trickery. The stories have multiplied. I hear them everywhere I go. But perhaps the hardest part is the silence. The ones who ignore me and my story simply because I do not fit their picture of what a hero should be. That's why I'm so glad that Deborah sang her song, that Deborah told my story. And I know my story is complicated. I wonder, do the ends justify the means? Is violence ever the only or the best answer? My story is messy, and trying to pretty it up really doesn't work that well. Am I a murderer, killing Sisera in cold blood in a place where he should have been safe? Or am I a soldier, killing an opposing general as is rightly my duty? Truth is, I don't know. I don't know the answer. What I do know is that if I needed to, I would do it again in a heartbeat. God used me that day to achieve God's goals and God's purposes in surprising and unexpected ways. What I do know is that each night when I crawl into my bed and close my eyes, Sisera's face still comes to me. And so in those moments, I whisper to myself the words that Deborah sang from the highest hill. Blessed, most blessed of women is Jael, of tent-dwelling women, most blessed. And I try to sleep.